The Oyster and the Pearl. William Saroyan. Harry Van Dusen's barber shop in OK by the Sea, California, population 909. It's an old-fashioned shop, crowded with stuff not usually found in barber shops. Harry himself, for instance. He has never been known to put on a barber's white jacket or to work without a hat of some sort on his head. On the walls, on the shelves, are many odds and ends, some apparently washed up by the sea, which is a block down the street. Shells, rocks, pieces of driftwood, a life jacket, rope, sea plants. There is one old-fashioned chair. When the play begins, Harry is seated in the chair. A boy of 9 or 10, named Clay Larrabee, is giving him a haircut. Harry is reading a book, one of many in the shop.
Well, I did what you told me, Mr. Van Dusen. I hope it's all right. I'm no barber, though. You want to look at it in the mirror?
He holds out a small mirror.
No, thanks. I remember the last one. I guess I'll never be a barber. Maybe not. On the other hand, you may turn out to be the one man hidden away who will bring merriment to the tired old human heart. Who? Me? Why not? Merriment to the tired old human heart? How do you do that? Compose a symphony, paint a picture, write a book, invent a philosophy. Not me. Did you ever do stuff like that? I did. What did you do? Invented a philosophy. What's that? A way to live. What way did you invent? The take it easy way. That sounds pretty good. All philosophies sound good. The trouble with mine was I kept forgetting to take it easy until one day, the day I came off the highway into this barber shop. The barber told me the shop was for sale. I told him all I had to my name was $80. He sold me the shop for $75 and threw in the haircut. I've been here ever since. That was 24 years ago. How old were you then? Old enough to know a good thing when I saw it. What did you see? OK by the Sea and this shop.
He gets out of the chair, goes to the hat tree, and puts on the hat hanging there.
I guess I'd never get a haircut if you weren't in town, Mr. Van Dusen. Nobody would, since I'm the only barber. I mean, free of charge. I give you a haircut free of charge. You give me a haircut free of charge. That's fair and square. Yes, but you're a barber. You get $1 a haircut. Now and then I do. Now and then I don't. Well, anyhow, thanks a lot. I guess I'll go down to the beach now and look for stuff. I'd go with you, but I'm expecting a little Saturday business. This time, I'm going to find something real good. The sea washes up some pretty good things, doesn't it? It sure does, except money. What do you want with money? Things I need. What do you need? I want to get my father to come home again. I want to buy Mother a present. Now, wait a minute, Clay. Let me get this straight. Where is your father? I don't know. He went off about a month ago. What do you mean, he went off? He just picked up and went off. Did he say when he was coming back? No, all he said was, "Enough's enough." He wrote it on the kitchen wall. Enough's enough? Yeah, we all thought he'd be back in a day or two, but now we know we've got to find him and bring him back. How do you expect to do that? Well, we put an ad in the paper. This paper? But your father's not in town. How will he see an ad in this paper? He might see it. Anyhow, we don't know what else to do. We're living off the money we saved from the summer we worked, but there isn't much left. The summer you worked? Yeah, the summer before last, just before we moved here, we picked cotton in Kern County. My father, my mother, and me. What do you say in your ad? Well, I say, Clark Larrabee, come home. Your fishing tackle's in the closet, safe and sound. The fishing's good, plenty of perch and bass. Let bygones be bygones. We miss you, Mama, Clay, Roxana, Rufus, Clara. Do you think if my father reads it, he'll come home? I don't know, Clay. I hope so. Yeah, thanks a lot for the haircut, Mr. Van Dusen.
Clay goes out. Harry takes off the hat and begins to shave. A pretty girl in a swimming suit comes into the shop, closing a colorful parasol.
Miss America, I presume.
Miss McCutcheon.
Harry Van Dusen.
How do you do?
Miss McCutcheon.
I'm new here.
You'd be new anywhere. Surely you don't live here.
As a matter of fact, I do. At any rate, I've been here since last Sunday. You see, I'm the new teacher at the school.
You are?
Yes, I am.
How do you like it?
Well, as a matter of fact, I want to quit and go home in San Francisco. But at the same time, I have a feeling I ought to stay. What do you think? Shall I go, or shall I stay?
It depends on what you're looking for. I stopped here 24 years ago because I decided I wasn't looking for anything anymore. Well, I was mistaken. I was looking, and I found exactly what I was looking for.
What's that?
A chance to take my time. What are you looking for, Miss McCutcheon?
Well,
I mean, beside a husband.
I'm not looking for a husband. I expect a husband to look for me.
Oh, that's fair.
I'm looking for a chance to teach.
That's fair, too.
But this town, the children just don't seem to care about anything. Whether they get good grades or bad, whether they pass or fail. On top of that, almost all of them are unruly. The only thing they seem to be interested in is games and the sea. That's why I'm on my way to the beach now. I thought if I could watch them on a Saturday, I might understand them better.
Yeah, that's a thought.
Nobody seems to have any sensible ambition. It's all fun and play. How can I teach children like that? What can I teach them?
English.
Of course.
Singing, dancing, cooking.
Cooking? I must say I expected to see a much older man.
Well, thank you.
Not at all.
The question is, shall you stay or shall you go back to San Francisco?
Yes.
The answer is, go back while the going's good.
Why?
You're too good for a town like this.
I am not.
Too young and too intelligent. Youth and intelligence need excitement.
There are kinds of excitement.
Yes, there are. You need the big city kind. There isn't an eligible bachelor in town.
You seem to think all I want is to find a husband. She sits almost angrily in the chair and speaks very softly. I'd like a haircut, if you don't mind, Mr. Van Dusen.
You'll have to get that in San Francisco, I'm afraid.
Why? Aren't you a barber?
I am.
Well, this is your shop. It's open for business. I'm a customer. I've got money. I want a poodle haircut.
I don't know how to give a poodle haircut. But even if I knew how, I wouldn't do it.
Why not?
I'm sorry, Miss McCutcheon. In my sleep, in a nightmare, I would not cut your hair.
The sound of a truck stopping is heard from across the street. Mr. Van Dusen, I've decided to stay, and the first thing I've got to do is change my appearance. I don't fit into the scenery around here.
Oh, I don't know. If I were a small boy going to school, I'd say you look just right.
You're just like the children. They don't take me seriously either. They think I'm nothing more than a pretty girl who is going to give up in despair and go home. If you give me a poodle haircut, I'll look more, well, plain and simple. I plan to dress differently, too. I'm determined to teach here. You've got to help me. Now, Mr. Van Dusen, the shears, please.
I'm sorry, Miss McCutcheon. There's no need to change your appearance at all.
Clark Larrabee comes into the shop.
You're next, Clark.
Harry helps Miss McCutcheon out of the chair. She gives him an angry glance. I won't forget this rudeness, Mr. Van Dusen.
Never whisper in here. People misunderstand. Good day, miss.
Miss McCutcheon opens her parasol with anger and leaves the shop. Clark Larrabee scarcely noticed her.
Well, Clark, I haven't seen you for a long time.
I'm just passing through, Harry. Thought I might run into Clay here.
He was here a little while ago.
How is he?
He's fine, Clark.
I've been working in Salinas. Got a ride down in a truck. It's across the street now at the gasoline station.
You've been home, of course.
No, I haven't.
Oh?
I've left Faye, Harry.
You got time for a haircut, Clark?
No thanks, Harry. I've got to go back to Salinas on that truck.
Clay's somewhere on the beach.
Handing Harry 3 $10 bills.
Give him this, will you? $30. Don't tell him I gave it to you.
Why not?
I'd rather he didn't know I was around. Is he all right?
Sure, Clark. They're all okay. I mean...
Tell him to take the money home to his mother.
He picks up the newspaper.
Sure, Clark. It came out this morning. Take it along.
Thanks.
He puts the paper in his pocket.
How have things been going with you, Harry?
Oh, I can't kick. 2 or 3 haircuts a day. A lot of time to read. A few laughs. A few surprises. The sea. The fishing. It's a good life.
Keep an eye on Clay, will you?
Sure.
Yeah, well... That's the first money I've been able to save. When I make some more, I'd like to send it here, so you can hand it to Clay to take home.
Anything you say, Clark.
There is the sound of the truck's horn blowing.
Well...
He goes to the door.
Thanks, Harry. Thanks a lot.
Good seeing you, Clark.
Clark Larrabee goes out. Harry watches him. A truck shifting gears is heard, and then the sound of the truck driving off. Harry picks up a book, puts his hat on again, sits down in the chair, and begins to read. A man of 40 or so, well-dressed, comes in.
Where's the barber?
I'm the barber.
Can I get a haircut real quick?
Depends on what you mean by real quick.
Well, just a haircut then.
Okay. I don't believe I've seen you before.
No, they're changing the oil in my car across the street. Thought I'd step in here and get a haircut. Get it out the way before I get to Hollywood. How many miles is it?
About 200 straight down the highway. You can't miss it.
What town is this?
Okay by the sea.
What do the people do here?
Well, I cut hair. Friend of mine named Wazik repairs watches, radios, alarm clocks, and sells jewelry. Imitation stuff, mainly.
Factory here? Farms? Fishing?
No, just a few stores on the highway, the houses further back in the hills, the church, and the school. You a salesman?
No, I'm a writer.
What do you write?
Well, a little bit of everything. How about the haircut?
You got to be in Hollywood tonight.
I don't have to be anywhere tonight, but that was the idea. Why?
Well, I've always said a writer could stop in a place like this, watch things a little while, and get a whole book out of it, or a play.
Or if he was a poet, a sonnet.
Do you like Shakespeare's?
They're just about the best in English.
It's not often I get a writer in here. As a matter of fact, you're the only writer I've had in here in 20 years, not counting Fenton.
Who's he?
He gets out the weekly paper, writes the whole thing himself.
Yeah. Well, how about the haircut?
Okay.
Harry puts a hot towel around the man's head. Miss McCutcheon, carrying a cane chair without one leg, comes in. With her is Clay, with something in his hand, a small boy named Greeley, with a bottle of seawater, and Roxana with an assortment of shells.
I've got an oyster here, Mr. Van Dusen.
Miss McCutcheon claims there's not a big pearl in it.
Is she willing to admit there's a little one in it?
I don't know.
Mr. Van Dusen, Clay Larrabee seems to believe there's a pearl in this oyster he happens to have found on the beach.
I didn't happen to find it. I went looking for it. You know Black Rock, Mr. Van Dusen? Well, the tide hardly ever gets low enough for a fellow to get around the ocean side of it. But a little while ago it did. So I went around there, and I found this oyster. I've been here 24 years, Clay, and this is the first time I've ever heard of anybody finding an oyster on our beach, at Black Rock or anywhere else. Well, I did, Mr. Van Dusen. It's shut tight, it's alive, and there's a pearl in it, worth at least $300.
A big pearl.
Now, you children, listen to me. It's never too soon for any of us to face the truth. The truth is, Clay, you want money because you need money. The truth is also that there is no pearl in the oyster.
How do you know? Did you look?
No, but neither did Clay. And inasmuch as only one oyster in a million has a pearl in it, truth favors the probability that this is not the millionth oyster.
There's a big pearl in the oyster.
Mr. Van Dusen, shall we open the oyster and show the children that there is no pearl in it?
In a moment, Miss McCutcheon. And what's that you have?
A chair, as you can see.
How many legs does it have?
3, of course. I can count to 3, I hope.
What do you want with a chair with only 3 legs?
I'm going to bring things from the sea, the same as everybody else in town.
But everybody else in town doesn't bring things from the sea. Just the children, Judge Applegarth, Fenton Lockhart, and myself.
In any case, the same as the children, Judge Applegarth, Fenton Lockhart, and you. Judge Applegarth. Who's he?
He judged swine at a county fair one time, so we call him Judge.
Pigs?
Swine's a little old-fashioned, but I prefer it to pigs, and since both words mean the same thing, well, I wouldn't care to call a man like Arthur Applegarth a pig judge.
Did he actually judge swine, as you prefer to put it, at a county fair one time?
Nobody checked up. He said he did.
So that entitled him to be called Judge Applegarth?
It certainly did.
On that basis, Clay's oyster has a big pearl in it because he says so. Is that it?
I didn't say that.
Are we living in the Middle Ages, Mr. Van Dusen?
No, this is 1953, Miss McCutcheon.
Yes, Greeley, and to illustrate what I mean, that's water you have in that bottle, nothing else.
Seawater.
Yes, but nothing else.
No, but there are little things in the bottle. You can't see them now, but they'll show up later. The water of the sea is full of things.
Salt, perhaps?
No, living things. If I look hard, I can see some of them now.
You can imagine seeing them, Mr. Van Dusen. Are you going to help me or not?
What do you want me to do?
Open the oyster, of course, so Clay will see for himself that there's no pearl in it. So he'll begin to face reality, as he should, as all of us should.
Clay, Do you mind if I look at the oyster a minute? There's a big pearl in it, Mr. Van Dusen. Clay, Roxana, Greeley, I wonder if you'd go to Wozzeck's. Tell him to come the first chance he gets. I'd rather he open this oyster. I might damage the pearl.
Okay, Mr. Van Dusen. They go out. What pearl? What in the world do you think you're trying to do to the minds of these children? How am I ever going to teach them the principles of truth with an influence like yours to fight against?
Miss McCutcheon, the people of OK by the Sea are all poor. Most of them can't afford to pay for the haircuts I give them. There's no excuse for this town at all. But the sea is here, and so are the hills. A few people find jobs a couple of months every year north or south, come back half dead of homesickness, and live on next to nothing the rest of the year. A few get pensions. Every family has a garden and a few chickens, and they make a few dollars selling vegetables and eggs. In a town of almost 1,000 people, there isn't one rich man. Not even one who is well off. And yet these people are the richest I have ever known. Clay doesn't really want money, as you seem to think. He wants his father to come home, and he thinks money will help get his father home. As a matter of fact, his father is the man who stepped in here just as you were leaving. He left $30 for me to give to Clay to take home. His father and his mother haven't been getting along. Clark Larrabee's a fine man. He's not the town drunk or anything like that. But having 4 kids to provide for, he gets to feeling ashamed of the showing he's making, and he starts drinking. He wants his kids to live in a good house of their own, wear good clothes, and all the other things fathers have always wanted for their kids. His wife wants these things for the kids, too. They don't have these things, so they fight. They had one too many fights about a month ago, so Clark went off. He's working in slyness. He's either going to keep moving away from his family, or he's going to come back. It all depends on, well, I don't know what. This oyster, maybe. Clay, maybe. You and me, maybe.
There is a pause. He looks at the oyster. Miss McCutcheon looks at it too.
Clay believes there's a pearl in this oyster for the same reason you and I believe whatever we believe to keep us going.
Are you suggesting we play a trick on Clay?
Well, maybe it is a trick. I know Wozzeck's got a few pretty good-sized cultivated pearls.
You plan to have Wozzeck pretend he has found a pearl in the oyster? Is that it?
I plan to get $300 to Clay.
Do you have $300?
Not quite.
What about the other children who need money? Do you plan to put pearls in oysters for them too? Not here, everywhere. This isn't the only town in the world where people are poor, where fathers and mothers fight, where families break up.
No, it isn't. But it's the only town where I live.
I give up. What do you want me to do?
Well, could you find it in your heart to be just a little less sure about things when you talk to the kids? I mean, the troubled ones. You can get Clay around to the truth easy enough just as soon as he gets his father home.
Arthur Applegarth comes in.
Judge Applegarth, may I present Miss McCutcheon?
An honor, miss.
How do you do, Judge?
We are honored to have you. The children, the parents, and the rest of us.
Thank you, Judge. I'll be back as soon as I change my clothes.
I told you not to whisper.
I shall expect you to give me a poodle haircut.
Are you out of your mind?
Good day, Judge.
Good day, miss.
While he is bent over, he takes a good look at her knees, calves, ankles, and sandals. Miss McCutcheon goes out. Judge Applegarth looks from the door to Harry.
She won't last a month.
Why not?
Too pretty. Our school needs an old battle axe, not a bathing beauty. Well, Harry, what's new?
Just the teacher, I guess.
You know, Harry, the beach isn't what it used to be. Not at all. I don't mind the competition we're getting from the kids. It's just that the quality of the stuff the sea's washing up isn't good anymore.
I don't know. Clay Larrabee found an oyster this morning.
He did? Well, one oyster doesn't make a stew, Harry. On my way home, I'll drop in and let you see what I find.
Okay, Judge.
The judge goes out. Harry comes to life suddenly and becomes businesslike.
Now, for the haircut.
He removes the towel he had wrapped around the writer's head.
Take your time.
He examines the shears, clippers, and combs.
Let's see now.
The writer turns and watches. A gasoline station attendant comes to the door.
Just wanted to say your car's ready now.
Thanks.
The attendant goes out.
Look, I'll tell you what. How much is the haircut?
The regular price is $1. It's too much, though, so I generally take a half or a quarter.
I've changed my mind. I don't want a haircut after all. But here's $1 just the same.
He hands Harry $1, and he himself removes the apron.
It won't take a minute.
I know.
You don't have to pay me $1 for a hot towel. My compliments.
That's okay.
He goes to the door.
Well, take it easy now.
Thanks.
He stands a moment, thinking, then turns.
Do you mind if I have a look at your oyster?
Not at all.
The writer goes to the shelf where Harry has placed the oyster, picks it up, looks at it thoughtfully, puts it back without comment, but instead of leaving the shop, he looks around and then sits down on a chair in the corner and lights a cigarette.
You know, they've got a gadget in New York that anybody can give anybody else a haircut with.
They have.
Yeah, there was a full-page ad about it in last Sunday's Times.
Is that where you were last Sunday?
Yeah.
You've been doing a lot of driving.
I like to drive. I don't know, though. Those gadgets don't always work. Besides, there's something to be said for going to a barber shop once in a while. No use putting the barbers out of business.
Sounds like a pretty good article, though.
Well, it's been nice talking to you.
Wozzeck, carrying a satchel, comes in, followed by Clay, Roxana, and Greeley.
What's all this about, Harry?
I've got an oyster I want you to open.
That's what the kids have been telling me.
He doesn't believe there's a pearl in the oyster either.
Of course not. What foolishness.
There's a big pearl in it.
OK, give me the oyster. I'll open it. Expert watch repairer to open an oyster.
How much is a big pearl worth, Louis?
100, 200 maybe.
A very big one.
3 maybe. I've looked at that oyster and I'd like to buy it. How much do you want for it?
I don't know.
How about 300?
$300?
Is it all right, Mr. Van Dusen?
He looks at the writer, who nods.
Sure, it's all right.
The writer hands Clay the money.
But suppose there isn't a pearl in it.
There is, though. Don't you want to open it first? No, I want the whole thing. I don't think the pearls stopped growing.
He says there is a pearl in the oyster, Mr. Van Dusen. I think there is too, Clay. So why don't you just go on home and give the money to your mother? Well, I knew I was going to find something good today.
The children go out. Wozzeck is bewildered.
$300? How do you know there's a pearl in it? As far as I'm concerned, the whole thing's a pearl. Well, I got to get back to the shop, Harry.
Thanks for coming by.
Wozzeck goes out. The writer holds the oyster in front of him, and looks at it carefully, turning it in his fingers. As he is doing so, Clark Larrabee comes into the shop.
We were 10 miles up the highway when I happened to see this classified ad in the paper.
He hands the paper to Harry and sits down in the chair.
I'm going out to the house, after all. Just for the weekend, of course. Then back to work in Salinas again. 2 or 3 months. I think I'll have enough to come back for a long time. Clay come by?
No, I've got the money here.
Okay, I'll take it out myself. But first, let me have the works. Shave, haircut, shampoo, massage.
Sure thing, Clark.
He bends the chair back and begins to lather Clark's face. Miss McCutcheon, dressed neatly, looking like another person almost, comes in. Well?
You look fine, Miss McCutcheon.
I don't mean that. I mean the oyster.
Oh, that. There was a pearl in it.
I don't believe it.
A big pearl.
You might have done me the courtesy of waiting until I had come back before opening it.
Couldn't wait.
Well, I don't believe you. But I've come for my haircut. I'll sit down and wait my turn.
Mr. Larrabee wants the works. You'll have to wait a long time.
Mr. Larrabee? Clay's father? Roxana's father? Clark sits up.
Clark, I'd like you to meet our new teacher, Miss McCutcheon.
How do you do?
How do you do, Mr. Larrabee? She looks bewildered. Well, perhaps some other time then, Mr. Van Dusen. She goes out. Clark sits back. Judge Applegarth stops at the doorway of the shop.
Not one thing on the beach, Harry. Not a blessed thing worth picking up and taking home.
Judge Applegarth goes on. The writer looks at Harry.
See what I mean?
Yeah. Well, so long.
He puts the oyster in his coat pocket.
Drop in again any time you're driving to Hollywood.
Or away.
He goes out.
You know, Harry, that boy of mine, Clay, well, a fellow like that, you can't just go off and leave him.
Of course you can't, Clark.
I'm taking him fishing tomorrow morning. How about going along, Harry?
Sure, Clark. Be like old times again.
There is a pause.
What's all this about an oyster and a pearl?
Oh, just having a little fun with the new teacher. You know, she came in here and asked me to give her a poodle haircut. A poodle haircut! I don't remember what a poodle dog looks like, even.